Hello, hello, hello.
Okay, you're too loud.
Are we begin?
I think we are.
Okay, I'm Mike.
I'm Brady.
And this is Context Blues.
That was awful.
We need to do that every time.
No.
I'm going to take that one clip and put it in the front of every single one.
Like the Game Grumps intro?
Yeah,
Just
that's
sort
our...
of objectively bad
Ours
singing.
is horrible, yeah. It is bad. Aren't they bad?
Yeah, they're bad.
And
Well,
it-
Dan brought an air of good to them, but...
Yeah, I guess so. It was worse before. But, oh well. So, we're going to be talking more about dreams today.
Just the beginning.
Dreams?
Well, yes.
And those slurping sounds you hear, those are noogles in the hands of Brabe.
Okay. I've finished my ramen noodles.
Ah,
I haven't, but for the time being, I have to top about my dream.
cool.
Anyway, so I was asleep the other night.
I was going to say, let's call this the Dreamcast. And I was like, wait, that's a machine. That's a game thing. Go ahead.
I was lying in my bed unconscious the other night, and my brain decided to feed to me the following little narrative. I was walking to school, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
It was not in Arizona. It was somewhere where there was like trees and little ditches by the side of the road or
Were
by the
you
sidewalk.
like a kid or as your age now?
I'm thinking kid, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. I don't know if I even have dreams like that.
But anyway, I was somewhere where little rivulets of water run just sort of freely by the side of the road or by the sidewalk. And I looked at one and I was like, this is amazing. And I think this in real life, in waking life, every time I go to like visit relatives in Iowa or any place that is in Arizona and has a lot of greenery. I'll look at a little ditch by the side of the road and see water there. And I'm like, I bet there's frogs in there and just like life and stuff.
I've been
And isn't
thinking
that
about frogs
wild?
a lot.
Yeah, my whole life. But anyway, in this dream, I was like, oh, I bet there's a frog in there or something. And so I went and I just sort of rooted around, and there wasn't, but I saw that it went between two houses on property that looked like it was just like you could walk back there, like it was a little cut-through path.
Mm-hmm.
And it got wider, this little stream. And so I was just running around in it, and I ran, and I saw this enormous frog. I mean, like 2 feet across.
Wow.
And weighed 100 pounds.
Wow.
And I lifted it up, and I believe it spoke to me, but I don't remember what
Oh.
it said.
Yeah.
I remember that it spoke, but not its words.
Mm-hmm.
And I like brought it out and put it on the shore or on the banks, and I was like just looking at it. And then, as dreams are wont to do, it turned into this little like hairy creature, and then it became a bear. And
I
then
love it when that happens.
And then it swam away.
It swam?
Well, yeah, the bear jumped
Was
back
it-
into the little river and swam away.
Was it full bear size or was it frog sized bear?
It was big frog-sized bear, so like small bear-sized bear.
Oh, I see.
Small bear-sized frog. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the more just absurd, less interesting one. The other one, my grandpa
Wait,
appeared
it's
in.
about the same night?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think they were loosely connected because I was in Iowa for some reason.
In both dreams?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I was with my grandparents. My grandpa passed away in April, and he's shown up in my dreams a lot since.
Oh, interesting.
And we were going, and he was going to get his watch repaired, I think, or like binoculars repaired. He always had a pair of really good binoculars, field glasses, as he called them, because he was a hunter. And we were going to this place, and we walked in, and like it was this shop inside an old, what looked like it could have been an old town hall or something.
Mm-hmm.
So like ceilings were a little bit higher than normal. It was a big open space with one of those central like hollowed out square shaped desks, you know, like you might see at an older style, I don't know, bank, or I'm talking really old.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Like turn of the 20th century.
Yeah, like old schoolhouse desk.
No, big wooden, like I want to say a ring, but it's square shape. So
I know what you mean.
yeah, at the center of this space.
I see.
And that's where these people were. And so we were going there, and it was like all over this place were like anything made of glass or metal or anything that required fine detail work. It was like that kind of repair shop.
Do you think you had this dream because of the oddities market, maybe?
No, it wasn't like that.
Oh.
This was very like everything was clean, everything was extremely precise. The people were working on them, and it was a lot of like rotating displays of repaired glass, metal,
Interesting.
wood products and stuff, like little fiddly piccolos and flutes and musical instruments and glass that I guess they'd repaired, which I don't know how you do that. Anyway, that was in my dream, and my grandpa was bringing either a watch or binoculars. I don't remember which one. It strikes me as one of those two there to get fixed. And the people behind this desk, I realize now that they were quite a lot larger than normal people. And one of them had this mask on that was like frosted glass with sort of a muzzle.
Oh, so it was like glass. A gas mask?
It was sort of like a gas mask. And then the eyes were two cylinders, hollow cylinders of glass that were not frosted, so they were shiny and clear. And they extended like almost as far as the nose did, the muzzle shape.
And they went down?
They went straight out, and the nose went straight out. And I remember him looking down at whatever my grandpa had brought in.
That's weird.
And they had like little,
scary.
The best and simultaneously the worst way I can describe this is they had like little nipples at the ends of the eyes. Like there were little extra protrusions, like the end of a mechanical
like
pencil.
Little divots, I guess?
No, divot is in.
Oh, like little...
Little protrusions, an extra cylinder.
A
protuberance. And I could tell, I just knew that was like, they were like super magnifying. But they were, first of all, it was a full like face mask made out of glass. And it was very odd, and it didn't seem very functional. But I just remember him looking down, and he was wearing like this giant black robe. And he had this little this big mask on with these little weird eyeball magnifiers.
That sounds like something to draw.
And he looked at whatever my grandpa had brought in, and they took the mask off, and I was like, "Yeah, we can fix this." It was super it was super menacing, and then not at all. My grandpa in the typical fashion was this will be good. I could talk about one of my favorite aspects of him. Was just being totally amiable and like Midwestern, chumming it up with these dudes who were dressed in black robes with weird. They were like bird-like and strange.
Would you say they were
almost
kind of like Plague Doctor-esque?
Yes, it was definitely Plague Doctor adjacent or inspired.
Yeah, interesting. I think you should totally draw that.
Yeah, I want to.
It's a cool science fiction story in the works.
Yeah, and it was just like it was almost like there was this race of peoples who were just they had better motor skills and they had like finer vision or something, and so they just got jobs repairing these really incredibly small, detailed things.
Do you think there's a way you could incorporate that idea into your Christiana project?
I don't know.
Because that might be an interesting character for like them to stumble upon or something.
Yeah, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. But my grandpa the whole time was unfazed by their appearance and was being very just like talking to him about, I don't know, weather or...
Yeah.
He had a remarkable ability to talk about nothing in particular, but to make it very friendly.
Were they all wearing the same mask?
No, only one of them was. Only the one who looked at the thing that my grandpa brought in. But yeah, my grandpa was the type to... They lived in a very small town, my grandparents. It was 2,000 people at its peak. And when I go back, it's like 180 and falling.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
That's
a tiny
really
town.
Small.
And whenever I'm there, I stay on we call it the farm in the family.
I was about to say, is that like a farm?
Yeah, they have a farmhouse. They used to own a bunch of land. No, they have a hen house, and they used to have a hog building, which now just houses a bunch of farm cats. And now my grandma's there by herself, which I think about a lot. But she's doing all right. She knows people, and she can get around.
Cool.
She drives everywhere because you have to.
Yeah.
12 miles from anything of note. And like a good half mile from any other building, which doesn't seem like much when you say it. But you stand out there. It's very empty. It's a very big, empty sort of feeling place. Can feel very lonesome. But anytime we drive anywhere, or I'd go somewhere when my grandpa was driving, he'd have one hand on the wheel, just cruising, because you're out in the middle of nowhere. There's no reason to stress about driving. He would always go, I swear, under the speed limit. Yeah. Because he just didn't care, and he left everywhere early, which I feel is amazing. And anytime he passed another car, he would lift a single finger, just his index finger, to wave. Aww. And if it was somebody he knew, he'd give him two. He'd lift cool. 2 fingers.
That sounds such a charming life.
Yeah, I think it was in a way.
Like a relaxed life.
Yeah. So that was really cool, and I just watched him do that to these weird... I think they were people, but they were weird. They're like definitely from somewhere else.
That's really interesting.
I don't know. You can make that a heartwarming message about welcoming strangers if you like, but I just thought it was a cool dream.
I just think
and so that got the phrase.
It's interesting. Okay,
Oh, I just wrote. I was like, whoa! I woke up and I was like, glass mask. That's pretty cool. So yeah.
I think like it's interesting because it's like you had this impression of your grandfather, and then it's like, I think that dream was just an exaggeration of how you felt about your grandfather. Or something, because it was like taking something he did and then contrasting it with something absurd, and you know how like David says we see through contrast.
Yeah.
So it's like your brain was trying to highlight what you liked about your grandfather or something.
That's pretty wonderful. I like that.
I think that is really interesting.
Do you have anything to say? I desperately want to eat this ramen.
No. Oh, no, I have a dream. Okay, I don't know. I had a dream all
right, Dr. King. Sorry, go on.
At first I thought you were making a Stephen King reference, and I was like, oh wait, who's the other famous king? Martin Luther? You know, whatever. Anyway, I had a dream a long time ago. I think I was in like middle school, and I don't remember the whole dream. I remember it was this big story, but I only remember one very specific thing. I'm pretty sure I was at my grandpa's house on my mom's side. Or, no, it wasn't. It was, like, some made-up house, but it had, like, the vibe of my grandpa's house. And I was in this big backyard, like, grass field. And for some reason, I was walking around with this... I think I told you about this a little bit. This lady who was, like, a mannequin. And she was...
I don't know if I've ever heard this.
She was clear plastic.
Oh, yes.
And her legs were filled with spaghetti. And the spaghetti went up to, like... past the knees a little and didn't go any higher.
Kind of hot.
And it was
high spaghetti.
She had like her limbs were separated by like metal rims, like metal rings. So she was kind of like a robot, but she didn't have like mechanical aspects. She was just clear plastic, and she had spaghetti in the bottom and nothing else. And I don't remember if she had hair or plastic hair, but I remember like, and I don't even remember if I was like friends with her, if I was afraid of her. And there were a bunch of other weird characters, and she's the only one I remember. I just remember her walking around, and it was really creepy.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's like sometimes dreams are like weirdly. They're always like oddly specific, but they're also so like weird in like really oddly specific ways.
Yeah, it's amazing how fully formed these characters in our dreams can be.
Yeah,
anyone's dreams.
Do you have any dreams? Specific. Any dreams that are so unbelievable that you feel like if you told someone they would think you're making that up?
My monolith dream, the one I've told you about.
Oh.
Which is also my earliest memory, is kind of weird.
That's your earliest memory?
Yeah.
Is a dream about the monolith? Mm-hmm. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. You probably told me.
It sounds like when I tell it, it sounds like a cheesy twist to some like creepy story.
Yeah.
But it's not. It really happened. Did I tell it on the podcast?
I don't think so.
Okay, my earliest memory, it must have been.
Do you want to talk about your project?
4 or 5. Oh,
or whatever.
The monuments one?
Yeah, because that might give context to people listening or something.
That has nothing to do with this.
Oh, I thought you said you had a dream about
monolith.
Monolith. Okay,
like
never mind.
2001 monolith.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
My earliest memory is a dream I had when I was like 4 or 5. I guess I was no older than 5. Mm-hmm. I think I was 4 or 5. Because it's really uncommon to have memories from before that.
Yeah.
But it was at this house where I lived until I was 5.
Yeah.
And I just remember waking up in my room, and there was a very low like humming, like halfway between rumbling and humming. Mm-hmm. Very ominous. And I looked at my door, and in the doorway framed by light was just a large black stone, perfectly rectangular, sitting there emanating this hum buzz thing.
Was it floating?
No.
Oh.
It was just sitting there.
Have you seen 2001 Space Odyssey?
Yes, but I hadn't seen it then.
Yeah.
And I hadn't even heard of it. I had no way of realistically comprehending it. I was too young.
Yeah, absolutely.
So those showed up in my dream.
That's scary.
And then when I saw 2001, I was like, oh.
That's really weird.
That's
I didn't even
weird.
think of that.
So yeah, it sounds like a weird twist thing, or like, oh, I could have made it up in the past.
Yeah.
But I didn't watch 2001, and I wasn't really aware of the monoliths until like, I don't know, I must have been 17.
Yeah.
So that was a full 12 or 13 years before I knew anything about the movie.
That's interesting. That's really weird.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever have reoccurring dreams?
Yes, I know I do, and at this moment I can't think what it is.
I
So it
used
must
to
not be
have-
that.
I used to have tons. What I was going to get to was I had this dream, I think about 7 times. And I think I
Whoa.
even counted. And it was really weird. It's not even significant. It's just really absurd. But it almost feels so absurd that it feels really forced. But I swear I had this actual dream.
Well, lay it on me.
And it was a dream where there was a giant chicken was attacking a city that I lived in for some reason. And so I teamed up with this scientist who was kind of Albert Einstein looking, and we invented a chicken squisher, which was a giant spatula on a catapult. And then we rolled it up to the chicken, and we were about to squish it, and then the chicken's parents showed up. And the dad had a tie and glasses, and the mom had like a 1950s hair and like a Jimmy Neutron's
Oh, I
mom.
can see it. Yeah.
And then they were like, "Oh, sorry about that," and they took their son home, and that was my whole dream. I had that like 7 times.
Were they normal chicken sized?
No, they were huge.
Oh, they're huge.
They were bigger
Okay.
than him.
That is amazing.
The evil chicken was like the sun. It was so weird.
All right, there's a book called The Hoboken Chicken Disaster.
Oh, yeah?
Or Debacle or Conundrum or Calamity. I don't remember. I read it, I think, and it was about a giant chicken destroying Hoboken,
Is it
New
a
Jersey.
children's book?
Yeah.
Oh.
Is Hoboken in New Jersey?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
So that's funny. And then Doc and Marty style team up with the disgraced scientist to build a strange device. That's really funny.
Wait, that happens in the book?
No.
Oh,
in your
in
dream.
my
I'm
dream,
just saying,
okay.
like, I can see. But if you
Yeah.
didn't know about the book, then I don't know how you.
Yeah. No, it was like that. It was like a Doc and Marty thing.
Yeah, that's very funny.
Yeah. I've had several reoccurring dreams. I keep having like what's not reoccurring dreams, but like reoccurring elements of dreams. And
I have that.
this has been happening only recently, like within the past year. I've been having like these weird little semblances of like I wake up and I'm like, wait a minute, I dreamed about that specific place before, and I'm starting to kind of like build this little like city in my head
Wow.
that I like go to, and it's like, oh, this is the movie theater I always go to in my head, and it's like not a real one, it's like a made up one, but it always looks the same.
That's cool.
Or there's
Your
always,
dreams have
like-
internal logic.
Yeah, it's weird, but I don't always have it though, and it's like I always like it when I do. It's a really weird like deja vu feeling, and it's like I have the same memory of like walking down a certain sidewalk that doesn't exist, and like or driving down a certain road, or like these same certain stores, and like I always have like the same vibe, and it's like it's really bizarre, and I've been having it like somewhere around like 10, maybe more than 10 times I've had dreams about this place. It's really strange.
I wish I could remember what my reoccurring dream elements are, because I
Yeah.
know I have them, but they. Maybe I should start writing them down.
That might be a good
Dream
idea.
journal might be a good thing, but I know they're there and I can't remember.
Yeah.
I'll be thinking about them now.
Some of my earliest dreams were reoccurring dreams. 2 of them, which have stuck with me my entire life, were. Did I ever tell you about the rubber duck in my life?
The Quubber duck?
No, not Quubber Ducky. This is a different rubber duck story. I guess I never told you.
No, I
I
wanna
tell a
know.
lot of people. I think I told all the other fools. And I've written about this a lot, like just growing up and stuff. It's like, I was a very like neurotic child, and like most children are like very sensitive and afraid. But it's like, we had 2 rubber ducks in our house, and they were both like the same design, except one of them had its head straight forward, and the other one had its head turned, and they both had 6 eyelashes, and
Wait, 6 eyelashes?
yeah, like 3 on each side.
Okay.
And so I remembered it was that specific design, and it's like, I thought we only had 1 rubber duck because I never saw them in the same place at the same time. So I thought that there was this rubber duck following me around the house and turning its head to look at me.
Oh my god.
And I was like 4 or 5 years old when this was happening, and so I was horrified. And when you're that little, it's like you. And so I started having nightmares about this duck coming alive and chasing me around the house and stuff like that. And when I was that little, I didn't understand that they were nightmares. So I thought it was like an actual thing that was happening to me. And it wasn't until like I got a little bit older that I realized I was just having nightmares. But then I kept having those nightmares really like up until I was like 8 years old. It's like, and I would have those like multiple times a month. like dreams about the duck, and like I remember I had one dream that was really weird where it was like I was at my grandma's house and I looked outside and the duck was there, but it was like huge. It was like the size of another house.
Oh my
But it was like
God.
in the backyard, and there were weird things like that where I would have dreams where I would see it like hopping around on the floor, and like
so weird.
it was really bizarre, and I was horrified by it. I was
Oh yeah,
so
of course.
like it's weird because it's like it's absurd and funny to think about now, but like if something like that was actually happening to you in real life, it would be scary.
Yeah, yeah.
And
it
it's-
wouldn't matter what the object was.
And it was so scary to me that I remember going out into like Target or something and seeing that duck on the shelf, like that exact model, and then I would burst into tears.
Oh my
Because
God.
it was so scary. It was like, but eventually I stopped having dreams like that. But if you look at like drawings that I made, because like my mom saved like almost every drawing I ever made growing up, and we have like a box full of it. If you look through drawings I made, there's lots of drawings like of the duck and like little stories that I wrote about it and stuff
Wow.
like that. And then I have another story that's really similar to that, which was about almost exactly the same time. When I was about that age, like 4 or 5, my aunt, she fell down the stairs and broke her leg. And so she was staying in the guest room of my grandma's house, and she was hooked up to this weird machine. And the machine made this really strange sound that apparently really scared me. And I interpreted that sound as the word oodalart,
Whoa.
which is a word I came up with. I guess that's what I thought the sound sounded the most like.
Like matage.
Yeah, matage is another one I made up. I'll explain that probably some other time. And oodalart, like that sound bothered me so much that like my brain trying to process it, like manifested it as a monster, and I called it the oodalart thing.
Whoa.
And what the monster was, so you remember the show Bear in the Big Blue House?
Only in name.
It was the big orange bear, and he had 2 like purple otter friends, and he lived in a big blue house, and they had parties. It was like a Muppet kind of show.
Okay, I believe you, but I can't recall the pictures.
Okay, well,
Should I look it up? Is it
Yeah,
important?
yeah, look it up. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know. You might, maybe it'll click or something. But I used to watch it all the time when I was around that age. Bear in the Big Blue House. I think it was Nick.
Oh, I think I'm already getting an impression.
yeah,
Yes.
that guy. Look, see the moon?
Oh my God.
That moon horrified me when I was little. Like I had to change the channel when that moon came on because it scared me so much, because it would just like fly down, and it was at the end of every episode he would talk to the moon. And that moon became the oodalart thing. I would have dreams about that thing like chasing me around the house, and it would make the sound that my aunt's machine made while
my
it chased.
God.
And I had that about the same amount of time that I had dreams about the duck. So it was like when I had nightmares, it was almost always either a dream about the duck chasing me or a dream about the oodalart thing chasing me. And sometimes it was also a crescent moon with a face.
Oh,
And
I
those
know that moon.
horrified me.
That moon's from something.
There's lots of crescent moon faces, and I remember one in particular was one where like it was chasing me around my grandma's kitchen. A lot of them took place in my grandma's house, and it chased me into the kitchen, and I fell to the floor like near the refrigerator. And for some reason, I couldn't move, and then it got its face up like really close to me, and it started like smelling my neck.
Ugh.
It had like a human nose, and it
It's
was
so horrifying.
it was really scary. I was like, I have so many like dreams about those moons and about the duck, and it's like, and that was another thing. Like if you look at like drawings and stories that I wrote, a lot of them are like about the moon, about like chasing me around and stuff. It's really weird.
Okay, that's awesome that you said. I don't know. You just said the word stories. It's not that incredible, but I wanted to ask. Do you have a favorite story? And I mean any narrative, movie, book, urban legend, thing you read online once.
That's really difficult.
Because people always categorize them by like movie or
Yeah.
comic book or graphic novel.
I don't think I've actually ever thought about that.
Because I'm trying to figure out what mine is. My default again would be Over the Garden Wall, but I don't even think that's my favorite story. I just think it's a really good one.
Like the best way they've your favorite representation of a story or something.
Yeah, overall it does the most things the best out of anything I've seen.
Yeah. That's really tough. I've heard so many stories, I feel like.
You know, I kind of want to let this one simmer a little bit,
Yeah.
and I'm also craving coffee. So,
Okay.
do you want to pause while I go make coffee and we
Absolutely.
can talk about it?
Yeah,
Is that cool?
absolutely.
Selfish reason to pause. I know.
They don't care.
I want to talk about what I want, and I want coffee while we do it. So, yeah, we'll be back. And we're back.
Here
Coffee
we are.
and pancake in hand.
Yes, I have decaf.
Dean calf.
Dean! He's got Dean! I'll put a picture on screen.
Perfect. You got to use the een from when you shouted Dean, though.
Dean.
That's correct.
Okay. What were
From Iron Giant.
What were we talking about?
I only remember what we were talking about out there, which
When
is
you
why
say
coffee...
Iron Giant, I'm gonna put a picture of Iron Man up there.
I hate you. I only remember our non-interesting conversation.
About coffee?
Coffee not tasting as
Oh,
good as
yeah.
it smells, which everyone on the planet
That
already
was
knows
stupid.
intrinsically.
I'm glad we had that conversation when it wasn't recording for once. We were talking about dreams.
My soon dream was interesting, I guess, but
We were talking about something else, and you were like, I'm going to talk about it, and then we'll come back and talk about it. What was it?
Your favorite story.
Oh! Okay, yeah. So, I don't know off the top of my head, but I can start talking about stories I like.
Yeah, sure.
Like, my favorite short story, like literary story, is I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream.
The scariest thing ever written.
It is really scary, but I also like it, and this is something that I don't hear very often. I think that it's a very hopeful story in a lot of ways. And I know that sounds weird because it's like the most logically extreme dystopia ever. But the reason I like it is because, should I do a spoiler alert? You've read it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so spoiler alert, I'm going to give away how it ends. One of the characters sacrifices himself so that he can kill all the other characters so they don't have to be tortured by the AI overlord guy. But what that represents to me is kind of like this human nobility. You know, it shows a kind of selflessness that exists in human beings, that someone would be willing to not sacrifice their life for someone else, but to sacrifice, to be able to give themselves up to essentially being in hell and being tormented forever for other people. To me, that shows a hopeful side of humanity, and to me, that's why it's my favorite story. But in terms of like story that could go across any medium, I think it's just like, it's the reason it's such a hard question to answer is because I like different stories for different reasons.
That's true. Yeah, I was wondering if one stood out as like, what an incredible story.
Yeah. Well, I guess I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream would be up there. And I've never played the game, and I really want to.
I'm not going to say Over the Garden Wall again.
Okay.
And it might seem cheesy. I don't know. I think they're... No, never mind. I'm not going to say what I was going to say. It doesn't hold water. But the reason I asked is because I've been struggling to come up with a story for my own project that I'm working on right now, which is the Monuments thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is another David project.
But I love your concept for this.
Thank you. Yeah. And I think that's even shifted a little. So my original concept was to have monuments to a hero's journey, because I never got to go on a hero's journey myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought, I think there's that sort of longing in any kid to go on a true adventure.
Absolutely.
And so I never got to go on the hero's journey in the archetypal.
I think archetypal is a word.
Yeah, I was going to say archetypical.
No, I don't think that's it. No.
Yeah, the archetypal way. And so I seek it out in stories and things.
Interesting.
I think what my main problem with this story is, or with writing this story, is me setting my sights so high and trying to write the greatest story ever, which is, I don't think, how any story was conceived of.
Yeah.
Or certainly not how the greatest story was or will be conceived of.
So is this going to be like a meta thing? Like it's a story that talks about that idea?
I don't know.
Like that's the impression I got, was that it kind of alludes to the, like, I don't think like the character in the story, the way I'm interpreting it, never goes on the hero's journey in the story itself, but it's a story about the longing to go on a hero's journey or something like that.
What I was thinking is that I'd have this character on a very linear journey from, not the hero's journey, a very linear just trek from point A to point B. Mm-hmm. And along the way, they discover these monuments or relics or remainders of something or someone or some society And when they get to the end, they realize that the monuments have been to them, the traveler.
That's really cool.
But not specifically. The monuments were to whoever found them last, and it's them.
Oh, so it changes for everyone?
No.
Oh.
But there's something different about this time. I don't know.Maybe not even whoever found them last. But maybe it's like these are the monuments to the next person who finds them and follows them all the way to the end.
Huh.
Like a hidden treasure sort of thing.
Interesting.
And then they get to the end and they fulfill some purpose. They never went on the journey, but they watched it happen, and it ended up happening to them.
Yeah.
And I'd love to say what that story is or what this character learns in their journey, but I have no clue. And Kaya's been really helpful with this.
That's
They've been
cool.
telling me to like just throw out ideas even if they're bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's so hard for me to generate ideas.
Well, let's think about like monuments. It's like monuments are kind of, to me, give an idea of, like, I'm trying not to say this in like a negative way. They give me an idea of like a superficial kind of reverence for people. You know, it's like making a monument for someone is a way of putting them on a pedestal, which is why like a lot of kings and rulers would have monuments made for themselves. And so maybe the moral of the story could have something to do with how you shouldn't strive to be remembered by other people on a positive light, or you shouldn't strive to have other people put you on a pedestal, because that's very like artificial and posturing like, and instead you should just follow your own heart regardless, or something like that, you know? Like, I don't know, maybe it could have something to do with that.
I like that. Part of my story research has been, so I looked up some story types, archetypes, and the two that stuck with me were Hero's Journey and Journey and Return. Which
Are these both Joseph Campbell ones?
Yes. I think that's a bit of a rectangle square thing.
Oh, yeah.
Like all Hero's Journeys are Journey and Return.
Yeah.
But not all. Yeah.
Interesting.
But the other thing that I found was Dan Harmon's approach to story writing, and it's an 8-step cyclical thing. And this is interesting too. I think he wrote for Rick and Morty, and which has some pretty good writing.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's a bad show.
No, I don't
watch
either.
it,
I think it has bad fans.
Well, yeah.
A few. And I don't know. I'll say that without getting too off track. I watched it all the way through, first 3 seasons, when it was like getting hyped up. And I loved it. And then I went back and I watched it again, and I was like, I don't like this so much anymore.
Oh, yeah.
And so maybe it was a Seinfeld Isn't Funny thing where
maybe
it was now so popular. Maybe I was being a little bit of a hipster about it.
I was about to say that. I was a hipster about it at first, too, when I saw the previews and saw how popular it was getting. I was like, I don't want to watch that.
So I'm sure that's part of why I don't like it anymore, which is unfortunate. Not for the best reasons, but I do genuinely...
you recognize that, so you could change your mind and still watch it or something.
Yeah, I could, and I've thought about going back. And what are they on, season 5, 4? I don't know.
It feels like so much work to start shows.
Yes.
I hate that.
Yeah, it's like, well, now I got to do this. Cause
now it's a commitment.
I like stories,
yeah,
and I want to see how they end.
Yeah.
And with serial television like that, often the goal is to draw it out as long as possible. And that doesn't
like that
make a good story. Yeah. Which is why I like miniseries.
Yeah, me too. That's why I like things like American Horror Story, because like each season is its own story, and I think that's really interesting.
I like any sort of show that goes in knowing exactly how long it wants to be.
Yeah, I like that too.
Or not exactly, knowing when it wants to end and how it's going to get there, and not putting in filler.
Yeah. What
was I going to say? Oh, Dan Harmon's approach to story writing, and I wrote this down a bunch, is you start with, and he had a lot of little like simplified phrases that seemed a little jargony, not even jargony, like at a business meeting where you'd plan an approach to, I don't know, the next fiscal year.
Yeah.
And with like buzzwords and stuff, it seemed a little buzzwordy. Oh. But it was was the first one, which is your protagonist, their setting and everything. Need is step 2. So introduce a conflict or a desire to do something, change something, which is a conflict.
Yeah.
Go, exclamation point, I believe. Yeah. Which is in the hero's journey thing, which this follows a little, mostly. That is crossing the threshold. And anytime I think of the hero's journey, I think of Star Wars.
Yeah, that's a good one.
and because it's perfect, and George Lucas has said that he based it on the hero's journey, which
Oh,
is
really?
why it resonates so deeply with so many people.
There's a lot of cool influences for Star Wars.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
space operas, which is like a very not recognized science fiction genre.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
But anyway, the heroes, or the crossing the threshold in Star Wars is going to the cantina
Oh yeah.
at Mos Eisley,
Yeah.
the hive of scum and villainy.
That's like the best part.
That's
one of
such
my favorite
Oh,
parts.
it's so good. It's where the hero realizes that the world is larger than him and more than he had realized.
Yeah.
And yeah. So that was Go in Dan Harmon's conception of the story wheel.
Mm.
And then there's Search, which is like all the trials and stuff and the journey.
Mm.
And this is the part where it deviated a little bit, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. And there's Find, and that marks the halfway point.
Yeah.
So this is 5. It marks the halfway point, because there's really 9 steps, because you end up at step 1 again.
Yeah.
So you need Go, Find, or Search, Find, and that's been called Meeting the Goddess. And I don't know really what that means. I haven't looked that up yet.
That's interesting.
But I was surprised that finding what you want happens so early in the story, the halfway point. But then the next one is Take, which is you take what you want, but I like to think of it as pay. You get what you want and you pay the price for it. So then you get what you want, and in this version, it's you realize that what you want is not what you thought it was.
Yeah.
It's not good for you.
Yeah.
And then there's Return.
Yeah.
And crossing the threshold and Return, Mark, if you're thinking of this like a circle with number 1 being at the top, 2 at the 8th position, and 3 at the quarter, like at where 3 is on a clock. 3 is at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Step 7 is Return,
Mm-hmm.
and it's where 9 o'clock on the circle. So from 9 to 3 on the top is Order, and from 3 to 9 on a clock, 3 to 7 in the story circle is Chaos. So crossing the threshold is crossing into Chaos, and Return is crossing back into Order. And then step 8 is Change. So there's a final test, and the hero does something that they wouldn't have done before they went on the journey. And that is generally what gets them their victory. And then they return to normal, because they have to. The story's over. And that's the new normal.
See, that's what
and nothing has outwardly, visibly changed. Or maybe it has, but it's normal again, but all this stuff has
everything's
gone on.
been restored.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like I would, if I had your story, that's the approach I would take it, the step where it's like you are seeking something, and then when you get it, you realize you wanted something else.
That's exactly why I thought your idea was really good.
Like maybe it's
the paying
like
the price thing.
he sees all these monuments or pieces of monuments or whatever, and he doesn't understand that they're for him, and he looks at them and desperately wants people to build monuments of him, and he doesn't realize that that's what he's looking at. And then at the end, he finds out that all these monuments were for him, and then when he has what he wanted, he realizes that it's not as great as or that he doesn't feel fulfilled because of it, or something like that.
And I don't know how to tell that story in just, because I want this to be wordless.
Well, that'll be a challenge.
I don't know how to tell that. Yeah, this could be my lifelong project.
Yeah, I don't like.
But I don't think it will be. But it'll be fun. I did come up with one other little story.
Oh, good.
And it's for the crossing the threshold one, and it's very on the nose, but the lack of words I think makes it acceptable.
Was this for a different project or something?
No, it's the same one.
Oh, okay.
But I know, and Kaya was saying this. They were like, well, they were like, it might make more sense to come up with the story first and then do the monuments knowing what you have in mind. And I was like, yeah, true, but I know I want this in the story.
Yeah.
So I agree with them totally, but I am going to use this imagery that I came up even without a final story. And it's just empty frame with trees in the background, like tall sort of pine-ish trees. And then a pointed arch with stairs leading up one side, through the arch, and down the other. Nothing around it, no walls, just a single pointed, like vaulted arch, Gothic style.
Yeah. I love that. I love it when they stick out like that.
And then the character, and then another frame, and the character looking back towards the arch, and the trees behind them are gnarled and weird and like wild.
Cool.
So
that's crossing into chaos.
Yeah.
I love that.
You
idea.
like?
I love that a lot.
Do you want to? I have it in my sketchbook.
Sure.
The
Yeah. Let's
visuals
take a
might be
look.
Good. And that's what I'm going to be working on tonight. Mike and I are
Nice.
going to go have a fun studio date.
Hell yeah.
and
Might fuck around, you know.
might fuck around.
Might fuck around and paint some shit.
And sorry, I didn't mean to leave you hanging there. Here it is. These 3.
Oh yes. Yeah, I like.
And I'm
that.
gonna work on that. I need to get that done for tomorrow because I need to show progress.
I love doorways that are not connected to walls.
I was talking with Kaya about
That is one of
that.
my
I
favorite
love that
things
too.
ever.
Yeah. I think it's a little cliche, but I think the archway is not.
Yeah.
I think the archway is still strong. It's just poignant.
Yeah.
It's not yet
I mean,
cliche.
I think all of those, I feel like it is a little cliche, but I still feel like there's a lot of potential to do it in a unique way with that one specifically.
Yeah. So that's what I'm working on.
Cool.
And you can see the trees in the background and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Here's a question.
yeah.
So instead of like, what is your favorite story? What is your favorite kind of story?
My favorite kind of story is journey and return.
Yeah.
My favorite is, and return doesn't have to be physical, like spatial return. You don't have to end up in the same spot,
Yeah.
but you end up at the same, and the only way I can think
Like
of this is like,
emotional spot.
yeah, or like energy level,
Yeah.
state of being.
Yeah.
But of course it's different by your journey.
Yeah.
So journeys to me, where you travel, I think those are my favorite.
Wanna look up all the
Oh, the
Joseph Campbell
yeah.
ones, because I'm not sure what my favorite is, because I definitely do like journeys, but I don't remember what all of them are.
Do you want to type it?
Sure.
I'm over here behind this Micron phone.
I love the light up keyboard.
Thanks, man. It's blue.
Joseph
My B LED keyboard.
Campbell story
Story archetypes.
archetypes. Clicky.
Hope this is enthralling.
Hero of 1,000 Faces.
He wrote that book about how the hero's journey is. That's where the hero's journey archetype came from.
Oh.
No. Oops, I hit no to cookies and I ruined it. No, just kidding.
Whoops.
Okay, character archetypes.
Hero. Mentor. Wait, these are characters.
Oh, we
What
load
the
them.
shit?
Character archetypes, according to Campbell, 8 types of characters in the hero's journey.
Okay, that's not what I was looking for.
Yeah, hero, mentor, ally, herald, trickster, shapeshifter, guardian. Shadow character archetypes?
Weird.
Find a place for these characters in your right. I don't want that.
Whatever. This is dumb. This is like Spark. No, it's shit.
Campbell, can you just search Campbell 7 stories?
Oh, sure. Okay. 7. Whoops.
Might have to edit some of this silence out.
7. I'll put elevator music in. I'll put on a video of a funny monkey or something. Why are they so hard to find? Oh, whatever. Let's talk about something else.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway,
I'll have a monkey video that entire segment.
Thank you.
Well, I just think it's like the reason it's hard to decide what your favorite story is because, like I said, you don't always go into a story looking for the same thing. It's like I like different stories for different reasons.
It's
you know?
true.
So I can't really quantify, or I guess qualify, what makes a story great. You know, it's kind of like I wouldn't say that pizza is better than burgers. It's like I like them both for completely different reasons or something.
Yeah, that's true. I think a better way for me to phrase that question would be, what's a story? Or what's like, I could even be specific, like what's a movie that you really respect for its story?
Okay. Well, I just watched it yesterday, but I've seen it like over 20 times probably because it's one of my top 3 favorite movies, and that's The Shining.
No spoilers.
Okay.
Sorry,
I'll
never
try
seen
not
it.
to spoil.
Yeah.
I'll just talk about it as generally as I can because I saw it when I was like 13, and it really did change my life. It like had such an influence on me. It is what got me into Stanley Kubrick films and also what got me into Stephen King books. Because right after I watched that movie, I loved it so much that I went out and I bought the Stephen King book, and then I started reading a bunch of his stories, and that really influenced me on because I used to write a lot of horror stories, and like his writing style and stuff influenced me. But that story in particular, it's incredibly symbolic and like psychological, And I feel like it can even be kind of interpreted as like I think it can be interpreted as your subconscious versus your unconscious mind, because it's like everything inside the hotel, all the ghosts and the spirits and the bad things that go on in it, can represent like the things that you suppress, like your shadow, like the Carl Jung idea. And everything that's outside of the hotel that goes into it are like the things on the surface level of your personality, the things that you're willing to admit and the things that you're conscious of and things like that. And then the story itself represents people going in and they become influenced by the ghosts. So it's like someone going in and trying to explore the own like depths of their psyche that they are commonly trying to repress and stuff like that. I think that's why it has such a powerful impact on me, because even when I was 13, I wasn't able to articulate something like that, but I still kind of got that sense, and I think that's partly why it's so intriguing, because it's like good art. It's like you don't always have to understand it at first, but a part of you understands it.
Yeah.
You know? Isn't that weird?
That's really cool. You know what? I read a really timely art history reading for my art history class.
Oh, cool.
About it was called Archival Impulse.
Oh yeah, I wanted to, wait. What was that other thing? Is this the thing you're talking about where you were like, Mike would really like this?
That was one of the readings.
Okay.
Antagonistic capitalism?
Yeah, I don't know what...
Was it capitalism?
No,
antagonistic democracy.
Okay, yeah. I don't know what any of these words mean, but I'd love to know.
Yeah, I don't want to... It was... Oh, I can't remember their names. Laclau and Moof or somebody?
Okay. No, I don't know either of them.
Well, yeah, but I think those are the authors' names.
Yeah. French, I presume.
Yeah, I think so. French? Yes. They talked about how a certain amount of antagonism, and I'll explain that, is required for the function of the peaceful continuation of society.
Oh, I do agree with that. Already.
It was like they defined antagonism as a struggle and a need to basically like having a cause, and without a cause, the aim of government or society should not be to solve everyone's problems.
Absolutely.
It should be to keep pushing new frontiers and keep bringing up new problems for people to solve.
I was thinking about this today, actually.
And I'm doing, of course, these are like wonderfully gifted minds talking about this, so read it if you want to know the real thing.
I actually do want to read that. That sounds really fascinating to me.
And
but when was this written?
I don't know. It wasn't super ancient. I want to say it was... No. I want to say it was like mid-1900s.
Oh.
Like mid-century.
Like 40s? 20s?
40s or later. I think it was after World War II.
Interesting. Yeah, a lot of smart stuff happened around that time.
But Busby says nothing new has happened since 1945.
Which I don't know if I agree with, but I kind of see why.
But then he also says that which of course means that everything new has happened. So, yada yada. But yes, what else was I talking about before?
So it's like we need conflict, and I completely agree with that. I don't know, did I ever bring this up on the podcast? How I'm like, I love that idea of like, was it? He's the guy who pushes the boulder up the hill. Sisyphus. Yeah. Like, that guy, because he represents, and I think they even referenced this in the Albert Camus thing, the Stranger. I think they even referenced the boulder
Stranger
thing.
Or the Plague.
I never read the Plague.
Sisyphean.
But I love the Stranger, because that's what that's about. It's like, it's about conflict and about how you need conflict in order to have purpose, and trying to avoid conflict is not a way to have a better life. It should be about finding a conflict that means something to you.
I thought it was a lot more... Okay.
Oh, let's go. Let's argue. I like arguing.
Of the two Camus works that I've read,
yeah.
The Stranger and the Plague, I liked the Plague more.
Mm-hmm.
It hit me harder.
Mm-hmm.
It made me an absurdist.
Mm-hmm. That's what Stranger did for me.
But I thought that the Stranger was more purely absurd. No, not more purely absurd. More about absurdity, versus the Plague was about finding purpose in absurdity. Making purpose in absurdity, because this plague comes along and it kills indiscriminately. It kills children. It makes them suffer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's killing the most innocent people in the most horrible ways.
Yeah.
For no reason. There's no reason why. And so all these people have to deal with that. And like this guy becomes, I can't remember if he is a doctor or if he becomes like an impromptu doctor's assistant. type character. But that's his life for years, is fighting this disease, fighting it in other people. Does he ever get it? I don't know. And he has to come to terms with that and find purpose and meaning in that.
Interesting.
And so that's what I got from that one. The Stranger was a lot more like, oh my God, this is all happening for no reason, and it could happen to anybody, and there's no meaning behind it.
Yeah.
But these I also read in senior year of high school, so it's been a long time.
Yeah. No, I got that sense too, but I thought that the message was like the main character in The Stranger
He's very defiant.
He's defiant, and but he's also very detached.
Yes.
He has no emotions for his significant other. He has no emotions for other people. And what I gleaned from that is that that's kind of what results from feeling like you don't have a purpose or a conflict in life.
Yeah.
It's like that specific flavor of depression is what happens when
God.
you don't have enough conflict.
I've been feeling that.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't want to
okay. I got more
diagnose you or
conflicts
anything.
now. But
That's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think about that all the time, and it's I think that's another one of the reasons I don't really like capitalism, is because it seems like one of the things that capitalism sells to people is this idea of being able to overcome conflict, because it's all about things that are convenient and comfortable.
Yeah.
And it's all about like, you can buy this so you don't have to do this, so you don't actually have to do this, so give us money and you won't have to do the work, even though maybe in a certain specific instance doing the work would actually be more rewarding.
You ready for something that's gonna anger a lot of Harry Potter fans?
Oh yeah.
So
hell yeah.
bro,
I'm lukewarm on Harry Potter, so
I never read the books.
Yeah, I read one book.
I
and
want to
watched
read
all
them.
the movies.
I desperately want to read them because I am a firm believer that the book is different and often better than the movie.
Mm-hmm. Except for
of course,
The Shining.
it's different.
I love The Shining book, but the movie is much better to me.
Well, Kubrick.
Yeah.
I say having seen one Kubrick film, but anyway, I just remember. I don't remember what it was from. It's when the first Dumbledore died, like the actor.
Oh yeah.
And they got the new one, who I actually like a lot.
I love how that doesn't even have to be a spoiler anymore because nobody cares.
Yeah. And I just have I think it was like Goblet of Fire or something. Again, I'm going from the movies.
Yeah.
And so I don't even know if this was in the book, which is why it might anger people if I say, like, I love that quote from Harry Potter, and all the true fans are like, it wasn't in the book. But I just have this little soundbite on repeat of Dumbledore saying, the time will come when we all must choose between what is right and what is easy. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah,
I get it's just a line, but it's really
it's
good.
like, that's one of those things where it's like,
it's not what's right and wrong. It's what's right and what's easy. That's usually when I have a conflict, that's what I'm thinking about, or that's what is the conflict. It's what should I do and what do I want to do?
Most people who do horrible things don't think of them as horrible things. Usually it's like they have a justification for it, or it's like an excuse. You know, it's usually neglecting something else.
Yeah. So
which I
that's
think is
really cool.
interesting.
But the original reading that I had talked about, the well-timed reading, was by Hal Foster. It's pretty recent. I think 2000s, possibly, so either aughts or 10s. Clearly, it's not the 20s.
Yeah.
But I think it was like, I don't know, whatever. From this century, so very recent, and it was called An Archival Impulse. And it's talking about artworks, installation pieces specifically, that used archiving techniques, and not in like the archival ink that won't bleed or won't eat away at the paper sense, or like acid free, but like the collecting of the like hoarding of information about something.
Interesting.
And the pulling together, and in almost a paranoid way.
What's an example of that?
I don't know if this was brought up in the reading. They talk about the work of I'm spacing on the artist right now. I can't remember. It wasn't Gillick. It wasn't Boltanski. It wasn't Richter. I don't remember the artist's name.
What was it about?
It was this artist would like after Princess Diana died, he constructed a shrine to her at the, like, near the site of her death, the tunnel where she crashed or whatever. He started it, and then people built onto it. And he started as an art piece, and he wanted to see the response he could get, and that was the art.
Yeah.
But then he would also do things like he would build shrines to artists who were long since deceased, But he would put them in places where somebody could have died.
Yeah.
He'd put them along the side of a building, along a sidewalk. Like, oh, maybe they were shot here, for people who didn't know. But it was like art historical figures who were, I don't even know, were they dead? I think they are dead, but like it was not a like visceral or untimely tragedy when they died, and it had had a lot of time to sit. It was old deaths.
Yeah.
And so then he'd see the response or not response of people who walked by, and the idea of looking at a shrine or a monument on the side of the sidewalk and being moved by it without knowing anything about what it is, and the fact that it's constructed. And that was a key point, was like, it's constructed, but it's also the truth. Or like it's true and false at the same time.
Yeah.
And the idea that you're changing the meaning by what you put into it, and by how you choose to construct it. And the paranoia came from like desperately trying to connect all these things, but really you're just bringing them all together.
Interesting.
And the connections are all in your own head.
Interesting.
And so he would make like these kiosks, he called them, where I can't remember this dude's name.
Yeah.
Where he would, it's right on the tip of my tongue. He would make these kiosks with information, and like they were like built out of cardboard and plywood and just like low materials, but they were all made to look, and they were made by someone who had an intense, almost like feverish obsession or passion with something. And that was the installation piece. It was like the serial killer's wall with the red thread connecting everything, except less cliche. Yeah. And I thought that was really cool. And I was thinking that's sort of what I wanted to go for with my own thing. It's like a collection of these pieces where you can feel the story without knowing it. So like you see this archway in the woods, or you see
I like that, yeah.
the tree made out of hands, which I never even specify as a tree. It could be sculpted out of stone. I don't know. I don't think it is, but yeah, spoilers, artist voice here. I don't think it is. Oh, and then I went to my first ever Catholic Mass.
Oh, wow. When?
Last Sunday, yesterday.
Oh, cool.
With Kaya, because they really wanted me to go, because they're Catholic.
How was
that?
And
I was like, all right. I am still, I'm not sure if this is my own prejudice or just a very strong belief, but I'm just still not a fan of organized religion.
No, me neither.
It just strikes me as very cultish, and I strongly, and Kaya is an exception to this because I know them very well, and I know that they have questioned the organization, and that they do have problems.
Yeah. And
that they have a healthy understanding of what they would like to, every Sunday that I see them, they're like, damn, I wish I could change the Catholic Church.
That's great.
And they take the meaning from it, and I think a more intrinsic, less politicized intent from the stuff. Yeah. And so I have enormous respect for what they do and how they deal with a really flawed system, while maintaining and uplifting the parts that are good and defending the parts that are good.
I think that's good too.
Yeah, so nothing but respect for my president. But I just, maybe it's cynical of me, but I when I see someone who's very religious,
you have like an instant reaction.
My gut reaction is like, this person is brainwashed.
I get that too,
and that's not fair.
I've had to think about that a lot too.
And so I'm trying to work on that. Like, that has come up just lately, and I realized it.
Well, you know what is interesting? I like this idea. I don't remember where I learned it from, but there's an idea that, like, even if you're not part of an organized religion, everybody worships something. It's
David
like
Foster Wallace.
It is. Oh, was that him? That's probably is. Because it's a human need to want to worship something and to want to have something to grasp onto in the face of the uncertainty of being alive. And so it's like everyone in a way kind of has a religion. I think the reason I typically don't like organized religions is because it feels like someone else telling me what my worship should be. And instead it's like, I want to decide for myself.
Yes. And you know what I sort of jokingly brought up? I jokingly asked Kaya if I could sketch during Mass. Mm-hmm. And they said, no, you shouldn't do that. It's supposed to be, the service is supposed to be about, that is your drawing your attention. You're paying attention to that as your worship. But they were like, but in a way, I think sketching is your worship.
Yeah.
And drawing is that for me.
It's like to me, it's like a therapeutic ritual.
Yes. And they were saying it's a deep attention given to and appreciation for the beauty of the world around you, and and the joy of creating something yourself,
Yeah.
and just like a deeper look at life.
Yeah.
And I think drawing is that for me. And this is getting real hoity-toity, but I don't mean to say that in the way that like, oh, you all wish you could do this.
Oh,
no,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
just what it's like for me. That's why I love
I
to
think
do
it's like
it.
that for a lot. I'd say for most artists.
And I thought about this the other day too, also with Kaya. Boy, they bring up a lot of theological stuff.
That's
it's
great.
Really great. I love it.
Theology.
We were talking about God, you know how one does when being theological.
Humans have done that for a while.
Yeah. We've been out here moving dirt for a minute. And what you looking at there?
What are we on? 1 hour?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
about an hour.
Cool.
And we were talking about God and believing in God and thinking about the afterlife. And I finally put into words what I think I've believed my whole life, or what I've arrived at after my life thus far, which is I believe in God in a sense. I don't believe in a God that is a being.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in a God that is like a property of the universe. So, and whether that God is like an appreciation for the things that you can't understand but you feel have meaning,
Yeah.
and that's where God is.
Yeah.
Or like the Buddhist conception that emptiness, there's a holy emptiness.
Yeah.
And that emptiness is God. That's I agree with, or agree is strong. I like that a lot. That's how I think of God, not as a being, but as a property or just a quality of the universe itself. But then I don't believe in an afterlife.
Yeah.
I just can't I can't rationalize that.
And I think I don't either. And I understand what you're saying, and I think I felt that way a long time too. But the only problem I have with that idea is that it's kind of like, to me, it sounds like you're just kind of changing the definition, or you're changing the meaning of the word, because it's like that.
Which word?
Like the word God.
Yeah.
Because it's like what you described as God, that could be assigned to something. That it's something completely different than the concept of God that still exists, but it seems like people just call it God because they want to not sound like bitter atheists while also not believing in like an intelligent creator or something. And so that's the only problem I have with it. Because I kind of feel the same way. Like I feel like there is meaning there's value in the world. There's like meaning that we give to it, but I don't believe that there's purpose. You know, I think a lot of people conflate meaning and purpose, and I don't think they're the same thing. I don't think the universe exists for any purpose, and I don't think that that's a bad thing either, or that there needs to be a purpose. I think I tend to be like kind of agnostic. Like I think it's impossible to say whether or not there is a God, but like if you use like Occam's razor, which is like the idea which is has the least assumptions, then I would say that not believing in God follows that the best. So it's probably the most logical answer. And I think that we kind of feel, I don't know how to put this into words. It's like, I don't believe that there's a God. I don't believe that there's a creator. I believe that the universe, I believe in a very naturalistic universe, like a very scientific universe where things happen with their own internal logic, but there's no reason behind it. And I think reason is like a human concept. And since we exist inside the universe, there's no reason that we should have meaning. You know, there's no, we are not entitled to having this existential burden relieved upon us. You know, it's just a part of life. It's something we have to put up with. And like, there's no, like the universe doesn't owe us anything, and it doesn't owe us an explanation either. You know, I think that's kind of what I believe.
Yeah, I like that. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. And it's just, but the scary thing, and it's something that I still think about a lot, is just like, I think about death, and I think about the afterlife, and like, what is the point of doing anything if you're just going to be born, do a bunch of things, and then die? And then if there is no afterlife like you and me believe, then you're basically just returning to the state you were before you were born, which you can't even conceptualize because that would require your brain imagining its own destruction, which is impossible.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like we might as well not exist at that point, because
I think that's what absurdism is, right?
yeah, but then it's like
There is no reason that we're alive.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you can't enjoy and find meaning in life.
Absolutely. And I think about that a lot, but sometimes I still stray off that and I still feel sad that, like, when I die, I'm not going to get, like, a scrapbook of all my memories of all the great things I did in life. But I think that puts me in check because that helps me realize, I think, what really is most important to me. It's like, am I doing this just for the memory or just for this image of myself that I want to construct? Or am I doing this because of some really deep primal thing inside of me? Because that thing is what you're naturally going to do in the face of realizing that you're not going to have all these memories forever.
Yeah. And then we're back at the cliche of, like, if you were going to die tomorrow.
Oh,
you
yeah,
knew
yeah.
it.
I wasn't even thinking
But
about that.
of course, like any cliche, there's power in it, and it has a really good...
That's why it's a cliche.
Yeah, it's like, because people are like, oh, shit, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then used it forever. But, yeah, I agree with what you said also about, like, changing the definition of God, but I don't know another word for it.
Yeah, no, I guess it's true.
So if I'd like to do more research on it, and if I find a better word than God, because that does imply a being, I think.
Yeah, I don't know.
Which is where I disagree.
I mean, they kind of connected, I guess, in a way.
But yeah. Well.
Wait.
We've passed an hour. Do you have something more to say? I'm gonna call my dad at 7:30.
Okay.
And my mom.
Let's talk about the bus driver story.
Oh, yeah.
Were there any other ones you wanted to talk about?
Well, the one that reminded me of this one was this tweet that we saw that I found that was, you know what? I bet I can find it in under 30 seconds.
Okay.
You can put the timer on.
Was there something I wanted to say when we were talking in the print lab this morning?
I don't know.
Because we were talking about your bus driver story. Okay, go ahead.
Give me the time later. We'll see it. Add it in post.
Okay.
All right, just a tweet. I'm going to read it word for word. Snowing hard this morning. Bus driver slid through a red light. Only thing he said was, "We slidin'. I can't stop thinking about this." We sliding.
I just love how, because I could feel like being in that position, and I would also think it's hilarious.
I just like I can't stop thinking about this.
We sliding.
We sliding, and that's a thing that we've said, like that phrasing we use all the time. But my dad likes to tell this bus driver story. Oh, and there's a related one where it was like a Tumblr post. It was like, y'all ever get a bus driver who drives like he's running from God? But my dad has taken public transit a lot of his life, partly out of need, necessity, and partly because he believes in it and it's his job. He does mobility planning, so transportation, but not centered on cars. Mm-hmm. You know, working with cars because you have to, but like for bicycle and pedestrian and public transit and things. And he does a lot of that work, city planning related. And we call him the transportation geek in our household. My mom does. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so this must have been like 30 years ago, 20 or 30. And this is his story that I'm parroting. But he would have this bus driver. You know how you get to know bus drivers if you take the same route often enough. Yeah. He had this one who would always have just a big lip of chew. Like it's just tobacco just running out of the corners of his mouth.
Disgusting.
Yeah. And he was like a little deranged, like a lot of bus drivers seem to be.
It sounds like the guy from The Simpsons.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm pretty sure my dad told this honestly. I don't think he
Yeah.
made it up.
No, I'm just saying, yeah.
But I guess he would he'd radio the main like bus hub station to tell them like give him schedule updates. This driver would. And one day he was ahead of schedule and he was like, I don't know, he just had the fire in him. And he was just like, he was speeding, he was cruising. And so my dad said he's like leaning over the wheel, radio in one hand with tobacco juice flying out of his mouth, and he presses the button and says, "I'm running hot." And he's like blazing into the stop way ahead of schedule, way too fast for safety. Oh, and I think about it a lot.
That's so funny.
It's very funny.
I wish I was there.
I wish I was there.
That was reminding me of how like a lot of the times you just hear like one sentence and it like stays with you forever for some reason. Do you have any of those that you remember off the top of your head?
Besides, I'm running hot.
Yeah, things that you heard that it's like, wow, that has never left my mind my whole life.
You ask this, and I always think about it, and then I never arrive at what I have. I know you have examples.
I have a couple. I mean, one of them was one of them. A lot of them are things that made me mad. It's like, why the fuck would you say that? And it's like one of them. I was in like this weird pre-kindergarten thing, and I hated it. I have lots of stories.
Yeah,
about
I went
that.
to preschool.
No, it was like in between preschool and kindergarten.
Oh,
it was like some weird thing, and I was on a bus, and I didn't have any friends there either, and so I was just sitting alone on the bus, and there were these two kids behind me. They were talking about something, and they were like reading a book or something, and then one of them was like, "Ow, I got a paper cut," and the other kid was like, "But you can't cut without scissors," or something like that. And
So stupid.
I know, and it made me really angry. Yeah, so there were things like that in my life that I've never forgotten my whole life.
I don't have so many first-hand ones like that.
Yeah.
Like anytime I say my dad now, I'm quoting.
My dad.
I'm quoting. Well, partially the Game Grumps,
Yeah.
but also, Mads Mikkelsen,
Who?
friend of Hideo Kojima. Hideo Kojima here. He was playing some Wii game with Hideo Kojima. He's an actor.
Yeah.
Danish actor. I don't know how to actually say it. I'm
Yeah.
Danish. I should know. No, I'm not. I'm American of Danish descent, sort of.
Yeah.
1/8. So
Aren't we all?
yeah, white mystery. It's like the Airheads.
It's called White Identity.
Uh-oh.
Come on, get used to it.
Oh God, I don't want to. Anyway, he was playing a game with Hideo Kojima because they have this wonderful high celebrity profile friendship now, and he like won a Wii Sports game or something. And he was
Wait,
like,
this is a commercial?
no, it's just like a video that
Oh.
somebody took, a Hideo video. I think, I don't know. They were playing a game, and he like receives this fake award, and he goes, "Wow, I'd like to thank my mom and my dad." It's really funny. I'll show you later.
Sounds like Steve Buscemi or something.
He just he affects this weird nasally American accent. It's very funny. But I can't remember, like actual phrases from my life or sentences that people have said that have stuck with me for that long.
They always come up for me in random moments.
Another grandpa story.
Ooh.
This was one of the last summers I was with him. It was 2 summers ago, and we were driving back from Minnesota. We'd gone up to fish at a lake. Friends of theirs had a lake house. It was really nice, pleasant to be on a lake in the North Country.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Yes, the old country.
The old country. We were returning from old country, and it was raining very hard. And we both had like one of those moments where you share it with another person. You've both just seen the same thing at the same time. Except for us, it was a crow just walking along the side of the road.
I love that feeling.
Perfectly capable of flight in a downpour. And we both just like looked at this crow, and then I like looked up at him, and he turned to me and said, "Raining so hard, the crows are walking." I haven't stopped thinking about that.
Wait, when
It's
was
really
this?
funny.
How
Like
old were
2
you?
years ago.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was like
one.
19.
I know one that was really strange. It wasn't even clever at all. It was. I think I told you about it a long time ago. Me and my dad were at Disneyland. I think I was like 11 or 12 or something, and we were on Thunder Mountain. And so we were just like doing the thing, screaming. I think we were in the front seat. Do you remember this?
I have.
Do you remember this?
Proto memory of this. I
Yeah.
don't remember what it was, but I know it's funny.
It is. And then like at the very end, there's like one really sharp corner that you turn, and when we did it, my dad went honk, and then when we got off the ride, I was like, "Dad, why did you honk?" And he was like, "I don't know, I just got tired of screaming." That was really weird.
I couldn't recall what it was. Hey, can you tell your molding story?
Oh yeah, I've been wanting to tell this for so long.
Let's end with that, all right?
Okay, that's a good idea.
All right.
Yeah. We've been quoting this, and it's like literally no one in the world has ever experienced this other than me and the guy who did it.
And a
now
Home Depot
Brady.
employee.
Yeah, I went to Home Depot early in the morning because I wanted to go there before school started. So I was at like 7:30 or
Thinking
something.
about this story.
And I was gonna build a canvas, which I ended up not doing. So I was buying wood, and I was waiting to get into the wood aisle, but they blocked it off. They blocked that off in another aisle, the molding aisle, because some guy was moving boxes, but he wasn't even in either of the aisles. He was like moving a box next to it, so they were just empty aisles with nothing happening. And this one guy who really wanted to get some molding was so fucking angry. He was like a 54-year-old man. He looked like a weird, like kind of Ned Flanders-esque kind of thing, like tucked in shirt, gray mustache, and in glasses. He looked like a 5th grade math teacher or something. And he was really angry. He was acting like a child. He was like, come on, we got work to do. And he was like talking to the employees and stuff. He was like, come on, let us in and stuff. And then eventually they opened the little gate and they let him in. And he was like, we got work to do this morning. And then the employee was like, we do too, or something like that. And then the employee was like, what are you looking for, sir? And he was standing in front of the molding aisle and he was like, molding! And he like flipped his hands up at the sign, and it was so funny. And then he was like shuffling through the hallway, and he was like, "Fucking stupid, fucking idiot!" Stuff like that. It was so funny. I mean, I was scary at the time. I was like, "Is this guy gonna hurt someone?" Like he kept saying things under his breath, and so I just kind of like carefully scooched over and got the wood that I needed, and it was weird.
Mike and I have just been going molding back and forth at each other.
He said it like a Seinfeld character. That's what I keep thinking of.
Oh, I love that story so much.
Yeah.
I so wish I'd been there. Just like I wish I'd been there for I'm running hot.
It was really surreal because it was like it was in the morning and I didn't feel all the way awake.
Yes.
So it was almost like I felt like I was dreaming, and then that happened, and that was like the moment where I'm like, oh, I'm in the day now.
that was your wake up call.
It was. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Well, anyway, that's
thank you
probably
for
a good way to
sharing it.
leave it.
Oh, I love that so much.
Yeah.
We're gonna go do work now and talk a lot more like this, but we won't be recording it. So hopefully we don't say anything.
Have your own conversations for once. Jeez.
Bye.